Hello, fellow gardeners and makers of mistakes. It's me, Todd, the world's worst gardener, a name that I've adopted somewhat tongue-in-cheek, hopefully so that other people won't take things too hard or take things too seriously in the garden, because it can be frustrating at times. I read something once, I think it was actually an image or a meme or something, but anyway, said gardeners go through these 7 stages of grief on a regular basis, right? I can't remember what all of them are, but the final one is acceptance. I ran through that with something I have here. As you can see, didn't make it. There's the stem, right? So that was an acorn I had gotten on a trip out to Denver. I'm a big Broncos fan, and I got that acorn from outside the stadium. I grew it. First time I set it outside, a chipmunk got to it, and I thought I was in trouble. Brought it back inside. It resprouted. Various things happened. 2 or 3 times it lost its leaves and came back. Then, unfortunately, and this one was on me, I was in a newer relationship and kind of had gardening stuff on the back burner, and had forgotten to water it, and the leaves dried up, and I said, oh, no big deal, this has happened before, and nope, it was dead, right? So so lesson here is chipmunks are better than people, right? No. But anyway, I'm upset about this, but and I left it sitting in the pot it was in for quite a while, the denial stage of grief, and didn't work out. But the nice thing about gardening is you get to try again. So another question that you might have right now is, why would somebody be starting a gardening channel in the dead of winter? It is single digits outside right now. I'm in the St. Louis area, zone 6B. It is freezing. We had a really super nice Christmas and the rest of the winter, and we finally got our cold snap. We did get a couple of freezes, but yeah, like my garlic is going crazy because there haven't been a lot of really cold days. So we'll see how that works now that it's hit some cold snaps, whether any of it dies back. I'm still seeing greenery on the garlic, and I've done an experiment of there were a few onions left over in the garden. And I just left them there because they didn't really grow. I think they had too much shade or whatever, but they didn't really produce, and so I left them outside, and they also have some greenery on them as well. So I'm interested to see, because I've seen that you can overwinter onions. Giving that a try. So again, why are we talking about gardening here on December 14th? Somewhere around there. Well, it's because there are a lot of things that you can do, not even out in the garden. As you can see, I'm in my workshop, which is also my seed starting station. Say that 3 times fast. I'm not going to try. And my potting station. Okay, so I have here a nice hard plastic's about, I don't know, 2.5 feet by 1.5 feet. But anyway, it's really served my purposes pretty well. I really like it for what I've been doing. That being said, it has all this soil in it that is from last year, and a lot of that is actually dumped out from things that didn't work out or things that I potted up or whatnot. I did a really poor job of keeping this tidy. And the reason that that's important, and what we're going to talk about today, is you really do want to disinfect things, and don't be stingy like I am, or like I have been. I'm hoping to get away from that. And hey, that's soil. It can still be reused. A big thing that I've run into, and I didn't really know what it was up until last year when I reached out to botanical interests and asked them and said, hey, here's some seeds I got from you guys. The leaves fell off. I don't know if I've got I thought I had a mouse. I set out a bunch of traps, didn't catch anything. And they said it was damping off. Well, what damping off is, it's actually a fungal disease. It is certainly related to having too much water in your seed starting trays. And that's, much like I talked about with my poor dead tree over here, getting the watering right is so important. not just for survival, but in terms of preventing disease. Something that most people do, myself certainly included, is overwater. If you watch any of these videos, you probably already know that by now. So I had a problem with damping off, and I figured, okay, big deal. I'll just, I overwatered. I can throw the soil back in, reuse it. Well, since it's not just too much water, it's also a fungal disease, a pathogen. I wasn't doing myself any favors by saving the soil that I had already used. So that's going to be a problem. So I'm actually going to go dump this outside, because damping off really isn't a problem once you have some established plants, right? So I'm going to go put this, something, maybe even the compost bin, I'm not really sure. I'm going to take care of this. Oh yeah, since I'm new to this, I forgot something already. One thing that I also wanted to show was, you might have something that you feel like, hey, I can reuse this, right? So here's a normal 3x3, or maybe 3.5, I don't know, whatever. A pot that you would usually use for potting up. You wouldn't necessarily use it for seed starting. Maybe if you're doing like a bunch of bunching onions, you might put it in something like this. But this is more for potting up when once you get something established and it gets bigger, and you would put it in here. So anyway, I've used these for years, and haven't necessarily done the greatest job of cleaning them out. Can you see that particularly well? The light. Dang the light. All right, so we've got a little better lighting there, and you can see, right, there's some leftover residue. And you might think, hey, that's not really a problem, right? Because I'm putting fresh soil in there. Big deal, why do I need to clean this out? Well, again, you might even think, hey, things get dry, right? Well, uh, especially mold and fungus spores, they can survive in a lot. Bacteria, maybe not as much, but still, we want to clean something like this out. I have something that I didn't even put anything in. I was just using it in a demonstration, I think. I can't remember. But anyway, a little bit dirty, right? This needs to be cleaned out. This, I did go ahead and spritz it out in the shower. Probably should have hosed it off in the garden last year when it wasn't freezing. But, you can see there's still little bits of stuff on it. And this needs to be cleaned, and especially needs to be disinfected. So again, I'm going to go dump this soil out. We're going to talk about a couple of methods for disinfecting. So we've already talked about why to disinfect. We're going to talk a little bit more about how, a few suggestions that I have, and what's worked for me. But again, the thing we really are trying to do here is make sure that there aren't any pathogens that carry on from last year to next. Things again like mold are pretty clear. You know, it turns green. You can see that there. You can there's a white wispy fungus. I apologize, I don't remember what that is. That sometimes you'll get. Those are pretty clear. But again, the one that really plagues me is the damping off. And if you don't know what that is, go ahead and look it up. Your plants look like they're fine. They've sprouted. They look good. You go ahead and overwater them, and the stem will pinch off a bit, fall over. What I ran into a lot was the leaves would just disappear, like fall off and die and shrivel up. That's why I thought I had maybe a mouse or something eating my stuff. But you really want to be careful with that. And there's overwatering that also causes root rot, right? So you've drowned your roots and they just die. So there's two things really that are bad about well, there's plenty of bad things about overwatering, right? So anyway, for those of you who haven't heard about damping off, go ahead and look it up. I'm not going to talk too much about that. I think I already have. But it is a pathogen, right? It's not just overwatering. And so that's what we're trying to avoid here. So again, pretty simple. This one I showed you earlier has some dirt in it. I probably could have washed that off a little bit more. But as long as we're submerging this, if you're worried about it looking unsightly next year, you can scrub it out a bit. But, just swirl it around. There we go. If I wanted to, I could wipe it off. But really, all you need to do is then sit there and let it air dry for about 10 minutes. And you're good to go. So I'm going to give that another dunk. Yeah, this one I should have cleaned out a little better before we got started. But pretty simple. Let that air dry for 10 minutes. You don't have to rinse it in water or anything. The bleach is going to evaporate. You're good to go. It's not going to leave behind a residue that's going to kill everything. But there you go. And that's all we're going to do is we're just going to dump them. If I see a little extra bit, I might thumb that off. If you're anything like me, maybe the first 5, 10, 15 or so, you're a little more diligent about getting everything off. And by the end of the process, you're kind of like, dunk, here we go, I'm good to go. So there you go. And if you want to reuse your pots and your seedling trays, fantastic. So, for example, if you got something from one of the big box stores, I can't remember what was in it, Marigold maybe, I don't know. So I thought this was great, right? It came with a flat, it came with individual cells that I could remove. I was super excited to reuse this, but again, I didn't really wash it out. Worked okay, but so if you want to use something that you got from one of the big box stores and reuse pots and cells that stuff came in, great. They tend to be a little less durable. I could, right. They are a little on the fragile side, so be careful about that. But yeah, you can absolutely do that. Just make sure to clean it. You can, I don't know if you can see, not as clean as it could be, right? Ooh, pretty bad. So I don't know if I'm going to even use that this year. That is why, again, name dropping or whatever you want to call it, I love these. These are the Epic 6 cell from Epic Gardening, who now also owns Botanical Interests. There you go. These suckers, you can stand on them. I'm not going to demonstrate right now, but these are as reusable as they come. So if you're really looking to get into this, and if you're going to be doing this year after year, eventually you are going to want to invest in something like this. But if you're just starting out, it is perfectly fine to reuse whatever you have on hand. So for example, like this is one of those Jiffy self-starter kits, right, that you see in all the stores. They come with the little peat pellets, and you put water, they grow up, you put your seeds in them, and put a humidity dome, and you're good to go, right? So they do sell the pellets by themselves, so you don't have to buy a new one of these. But I could probably dunk. Yeah, I can dunk this in. Probably not my best plan. So here I might want to either spray with some bleach or some alcohol and a rag, to get that done, right? But these can absolutely be reused as well. But yeah, if you're going long term on this, get something that is nice and sturdy, isn't going to break, because even my trays underneath, they start getting holes in them and whatnot. And that cheaper plastic, if you're careful about it, it'll last you a couple, 3, maybe even 4 or 5 years. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the underneath trays and these, again, this is just a public service announcement, not a endorsement or anything. You're going to want to get some of these. And for underneath, you're going to want to get some of these. Again, the ones that the Jiffy and whomever else come in, they're decent, but they're just not going to last you. So again, these are the Epic flats, the 1020 flats. So you can see this one's really dirty. So again, not going to dunk it. Probably, yeah, let's go. Well, what did we do with the alcohol? It was just here. Here we go. Right. Again, pretty simple. Do. There we go. Wipe that down, and we're going to be good to go. So there it is. Now we know about the importance, and it's pretty simple, right? I mean, it's a chore, but me personally, this is my alone time. I sit and listen to my podcasts. It's relaxing for me, right? So there you go, right? Pretty simple. Probably going to want to change out my rag every now and again just to make sure I'm not cross-contaminating. But yeah, that's pretty clean, right? Can you see that? There we go. So thanks for listening. And I've been trying to think about taglines, making mistakes so you don't have to. But no, I don't like that one. But, because that's how we learn, right? Is making mistakes and learning from them. So I can't necessarily take all of it away for you. But I do want to talk about, mistakes I've made, things I've learned. And thanks for joining me on this journey.